everyone, and welcome to the Healing Courageously podcast, where we start the hard conversations with your host, Randy Boyd, #1 international best-selling author, life coach, and pastor. We hope you enjoy today's show.
Well, hello, everybody. Hi, Linda. How are you today? I don't know if you could hear that introduction I just did. I'm working on a podcast. So, one, I hope you can hear me fine. And if you heard that podcast entry, anybody got any feedback? You know me, I'm more than open to receiving feedback. So, but as I promised, I'm back today because Thursday we got interfered with a very important topic of spiritual abuse. It just seems like the journey I'm on right now, that there are certain entities in this world. Thanks, Linda. Certain entities in this world that don't want me doing what I'm doing, and they do everything they can to stop me. And yeah, it sounds magical, mystical, guru, whatever you want to say it is, but the reality is it happens. So, but nonetheless, I'm not going to be beat. I'm back today to talk about that spiritual abuse. It's chapter 5 of my book. This is part 1. And we're going to talk about what spiritual abuse is. That's something that I'm probably, out of everything that I talk about when I speak, especially at the college level. But the one question I receive all the time is, what exactly is spiritual abuse, Randy? It's a good question. It's really important that we understand it, because there's a lot of repercussions that come with it, and create a lot of issues that we deal with personally, and as well as it's a good thing to know for pastors or ministers or any kind of mentors, that spiritual abuse can cause a lot of damage, and a lot of long-term damage, and in fact probably is the #1 reason people walk away from church and turn their back on God. I know that was for me. Spiritual abuse comes in a lot of different ways. And we're going to talk about a couple of those. It is difficult to define, because there are so many different religions and belief systems out there. And sadly, just as many ways that those teachings can be twisted so they can become abusive. I mean, I think it was Jim Jordan with that had everybody drink that poison Kool-Aid. That was the ultimate form of abuse. There's a lot of different religions, and I'm not going to go into tearing religions apart today. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to talk about spiritual abuse, and you can make your own mind up. The one thing that I've found, that every expert has his or her own definition of exactly what spiritual abuse is. But there's a constant that's found in every single one of those explanations and definitions, and that's power. It's power over an individual, power over a group, and it's especially to individuals who are vulnerable and most in need of support. So those that are really in need of support and are looking forward to it, spiritual abuse can be used in ways that are very harmful to people, almost like a brainwashing. So we got to be careful with that. As I go, I'll try to remember Monday. There's a lot of good things that come to me, so I'm hoping they'll come back to me today. I'm going to give you one of many definitions of spiritual abuse, and I'm choosing to include it here because it directly addresses the key component of abuse, and that is a misuse of power. And Ken Blue, who's a motivational speaker in religious and business circles, compares spiritual abuse to physical and sexual abuse. So I will tell you that it doesn't matter what kind of abuse it is. Factually, I can tell you this. Whether it's sexual abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, physical abuse, all abuse has nothing to do with, especially sexual abuse, has nothing to do with sex, but everything to do with power. Physical abuse has nothing to do with the physical part of it. It has to do with the power that person wants to have over you. And in many of these cases, it's important to understand that a lot of these people that inflict this abuse on us are broken, very broken themselves, and have never worked on their issues that surround their abuse. What they do is the common words are, "Well, it happened to me, and look at me, I'm okay." And the reality is that happened to me. That happened to me in a facility I was speaking to, and I actually challenged a gentleman to take a little journey with me. And I says, "Well, you say you're okay, but you might want to rethink it because you just got out of a 2-year stint in prison. You're in an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center. So you want to think about how you're okay again?" And he goes, "Well, it happened. You know, my dad did it to me, and I'm fine." I go, "Well, I don't think you are." And I said, "Do me a favor. Go back to that kid that was getting beat. Just entertain me. Prove me wrong." And he went back there, and I said, "Now, how did it feel, that little kid? How did you feel when your dad was beating you physically or emotionally?" He goes, "Not good." He kind of sunk in his chair, and I go, "See my point? So is that the kind of pain you want to inflict on your own children? Just because something was done to us doesn't mean it's right." And in most cases, if it's painful, it's not right. It's not right at all. So Kim Blue, this is his definition of it. The use of any power, the use of any type occurs, abuse of any type occurs when someone has power over another and uses that power to hurt. Physical abuse means that someone exercises physical power over another, causing physical wounds. Sexual abuse means that someone exercises sexual power over another, resulting in sexual wounds. And spiritual abuse happens when a leader with spiritual authority uses that authority to coerce, control, or exploit a follower, thus causing spiritual abuse. You could add infinitum on emotional abuse, everything. They're using that power to cause harm, hurt people. Okay. So you've got that kind of abuse, but spiritual abuse. And it happens a lot in the churches. It happened to me in the church. But more importantly, the minute a child, hey Jim, the minute a child is abused, his spirit is crushed, his spirit is broken. That's spiritual abuse. You've just crushed the spirit of that child by abusing them. The minute you call that child worthless, the minute you call that child an idiot, you don't know nothing, you're not going to amount to nothing, that's spiritual abuse. The minute you start beating on a child, that's spiritual abuse. And I would challenge anybody out there. You show me in the Bible where it says, where Jesus hit a kid, and then I'll back off the way I talk about it. But Jesus never hit a child. Never. In fact, there's scripture that says, "Do not anger your children. Be careful." I'm going to paraphrase. "Do not anger your child and cause them to be discouraged. If you harm a little one and cause them to fall from my grace, you'd be better off with a millstone tied around your neck and thrown in the sea." What Jesus is saying is, you'd be better off dead than hurting one of my children. I'm not saying we don't discipline our children. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there's a lot better ways than hitting a child to discipline them. I have three kids, and I've never raised a hand to any of them, and they're great children. There's a lot of different ways we can work with our children. So spiritual abuse happens in a lot of different ways, and one of them is the emotional and physical abuse that we and a lot of that emotional abuse that we're imposing on a child, we're unaware that we're actually doing it. It's not that we're consciously doing it. You know, we're doing it because it's all that we know. It's what was done to us, and we think it's okay. And that's why I say, go back to when you were a child and somebody was beating you, or emotionally or physically. How did it really make you feel? It made you feel worthless. You wonder why people don't have self-confidence? They're low self-esteem, low self-worth. It all starts in the home. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. They've been abused from a very young age in one way or the other. Okay? So that's spiritual abuse in one case. What happens also is I think I mentioned it earlier, or I'll go over it right now, that in most cases, having been abused spiritually, they're not inclined to turn to a higher power for comfort. And that's the sad part, is that I know, Linda, you're listening, and I know I spent some time with Terry on this very subject about how are we supposed to, when you have a father here on earth that's supposed to take care of us and love us and be there for us and teach us about life, but that father abandons us, that father abuses us, that father treats us like crap, that father, we're second best to him. And then you're going to come along, you're going to tell me that this magical, mystical God that's somewhere up in the universe where, who knows where he's at, right? You're going to tell me, and I'm just using this as an example. I believe everything that he is up there, but you're going to tell me that God that I can't see is going to take care of me. Is going to meet every one of my needs. It's going to love me unconditionally. And you want me to believe that? It's a bad, bad, bad problem that we have. And I've had kids I work with, unprovoked, use those exact words to me. And I understand it because I went through it too. And so that's a hurdle to get over. Go sit in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for a week, just a week. And you'll see how many people have been hurt by church. And then that, because they're hurt by the people in the church, then their perception of God is right out the window. So the spiritual abuse that happens to a lot more people than we realize is not good. Alcoholics Anonymous is so far away from what they set out to be. And I'm reading the book, James Camp, right now. Okay, or James Club. When Bob and Bill set that up, and Ann, every meeting had the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit invited into it. Every meeting they read out of the Bible. It was founded on the book of James, 1 Corinthians 13, and the Sermon on the Mount. Now in AA, people are going to a higher power, okay? And that higher power could be anything. And that's why I believe that's why so many people relapse. Because without God in our life, we're going to be in trouble. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous is so beautifully structured. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over whatever, and our life had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power, capital P power, or God, could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we turned our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand God. That's where people get confused. I believe when I walked into AA, when I walked into treatment, the God that I understood beat me, raped me, was not good to me, was condemning everything I did. I believed I was already doomed for hell. That's what I believed. But then, through the power of Alcoholics Anonymous and the way they structured their steps, the God that I understand today is not that God that was inflicted on me, the God that I was told to believe in, the God that I thought I had to believe in. The God that I understand today is loving, kind, caring, compassionate, graceful, funny, enduring. He's always there for me. Even though sometimes I don't think he is, he's always there for me. That's where I believe God as you understand him is supposed to be. Okay? It's not God as I understand him, my statue. Not God as I understand him, my guitars. Not God as I understand him, the fan. That's not what they meant. That's what spiritual abuse does to people. And I wish the church, I wish pastors could see this and understand it. It's not God, it's not the church, it's people. And God gives man free will. And it takes time for a lot of people to understand that. But I know when I did, here's what got me to do that. My therapist, she's a doll. She's a gem. She's a jewel. She told me one day, and I didn't want to hear it. Randy, people are going to hurt you. They're going to let you down. They're going to lie to you, and they're going to discourage you. They're going to do all sorts of things to you. Don't take it personal. It's just the way life is. And that's what I had to work on. And I worked so hard with people, quit taking things personal. And they say, well, it's mighty hard to do, Randy. I go, well, yeah, you're right. But we can work on it, because the reality is when somebody has a problem with you, the problem is within their self, not with you. It's real simple. It takes a while to get there. But that is the truth of almost, not of almost, that is the truth of the matter. Okay? Because remember, when I walked in, I wanted nothing to do with God. And those that know me, a lot of people didn't know me. I mean, the people from my church, they've only known me for the last 7 years. People didn't know me when I was out there. And I wanted nothing to do with God or the church. And I kept my family from going to church. And that was my bad, And now Kathy and I we're loving our children. And when they get there, they get there. He had a plan for me, and I'm there. So I'm just loving my children back. I don't impose my beliefs on my children or others. My number one success, and all glory goes to God, was somebody that walked in 2 years ago. And not once, and he'll tell you this, he just shared his testimony today, not once did that person hear anything out of the Bible, or you have to do this, or God's going to do this. What I did is I showed him the love of Christ. Too many people talk about the love of Christ. Too many talk about what God can do for you. But then when you walk outside, they're doing 180-degree difference. That's spiritual abuse. We're not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I mean, none of us are perfect. But the way this guy came to Christ was because I kept on showing him, I don't care what you did. I don't care what happened. We're going to get you through it. I love you no matter what. He got come to Christ. Then him and his wife got baptized together. They bought a house. They had a kid. Now they got 2 twins on the way. They got twins on the way. His life, he goes, I never imagined my life to be this good, Randy. And all I did was show him the love of Christ. There was others that could help him it takes a team. It's not one person can do anything. God's got to be at the center of it. See, when I came in, I believed at best that God, he didn't care what happened to me. And at worst, he actually protected my abusers. Because what I would hear out there was that, oh, Jack and your mom are such good people, Randy. They could never do nothing like that. They help so many people. They're so wonderful, and they're this and they're that. But then when they got behind closed doors, completely different. Nobody cared to talk up to Randy, even the youth pastor. Nobody cared to come to Randy and say, what's going on? Instead, I had people at my house at 10 o'clock at night waking me up trying to pray the demons out of me when the demons were standing right behind them was my mom and Jack. We have to be careful with how we speak to people. What would Christ say? How would Christ act? We're not Jesus, and we never will be. But he's a darn good model of how we should be with people. And I do my very best on a daily basis to do this. See, in my church, the pastors and leaders of my church, not only knew what Jack was doing to me and my mother was doing to me, but they covered it up for him. And as a deacon of the church, he always was quoting from the Bible to make me the evildoer. I was always the evildoer. I was the problem. My mother even had the audacity to call me Satan more than once. Who would do that to their child? Who would ever do that to the child? Here's what I saw at one point with my struggle with God. I saw that God took away my father. first in a divorce, and then he took him away permanently when he died when I was 12 and my father was 32. Then he brought Jack into my life, who abused me for the next 5-6 years. The elders of the church, like I said, they come over late at night. My mother, like I said, called me Satan, but not once did anybody ever ask, Randy, what's happening? How are you doing, Randy? Instead, what happened was eventually they all turned their back on Randy. Because to most of the people in the church, my youth pastor, my mother, my stepfather, all I was another out of control, demon possessed teenager. They'd just as soon throw me to the curb than love me back to life. So sexual abuse is pretty broad. We have to be very careful. We're using our power to inflict our beliefs on other people. I believe that the Bible is the only thing we really have to listen to. And so many people interpret it in different ways, and they'll interpret it to meet their cause or their behavior, is what I've seen. That we have to be, I believe we have to be taught about the Bible. It's got a lot of really good, I mean, since I've read it, everything that was done to me, I'm seeing just the opposite being told in the Bible. Okay? We have to be able to explore and learn. And yeah, the teachings are wonderful. But then to have somebody imposing their power and their beliefs and saying, if you don't believe this way, you're going to burn in hell forever, and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Maybe it probably is true. But to have that fear put in somebody, I didn't want to fear God. Why should I fear God? Because for so many years, that's what I did. I feared everybody, and God number one. That's why I was so far away from him. And my therapist explained it to me, Randy, how about if you respect God? I think I can do that. So I respect God, because there's a lot that if I don't respect God and his wishes and his commands, then I have something to fear. So spiritual abuse is very damaging. And because I work one-on-one with so many people, I see it. And I got one guy that called me a week ago, and I did everything I could in my power because I could relate to everything he was saying, and I haven't seen him. I actually did show up in church one day since then. But he is just ready. He's ready to put his fist up and fight because he's been hurt so badly by pastors and people in the church. And I'm not talking our church. I'm not talking Destiny Church. That's not happening there. Okay? That's why I'm still at Destiny, because it's a very loving, meet you where you're at, no judgment church. Yeah, there's people in there that are going to judge, but that's just life. You know, if you just find somebody else to talk with. It's real simple. So that's all I got for today. Spiritual abuse. Just be aware of it in your everyday working with people. Okay. It's important that we treat people with love and kindness, and get curious. Here's what I like to do is I like to get really curious and ask really curious questions rather than telling people what they have to do or what they should do. First of all, you're not them, so you do not know what they should do, and you do not know what they need. Okay? You know what you should do and what you need, but don't inflict your needs and shoulds on other people. Ask curious questions. Let them think about it. We all have the answers inside. We are all our own best experts of ourselves. Okay? So, perfect, Linda. Absolutely. We treat people just like we treat God. Matter of fact, that's great, because I can remember when earlier on in my journey, I would sit there and go, okay, when I'm talking with somebody, how would I talk to that person if God was standing right next to me? How would I talk to this person? If God was part of this conversation, how would I talk to him? And that's a very good point, Linda. And if we can do that, I guarantee you, your verbiage will change when you talk to people, even people that get you upset. Okay. So remember to visit the Courageous Healers website, please. It's at courageoushealers.org. Also, my life coaching, I've picked up a couple good clients lately. So I'm starting to pick up those clients that I'm so grateful for and in great need for. And in my life coaching, my wife and I work with couples on marriage, work with addictions, abuse, inner healing, the spiritual abuse. I work with it all. You're right, Linda. Yeah. My wife is a queen and she's a doll. And she, from going from somebody that didn't pray, I let her pray every chance she gets. She is a powerful prayer warrior, and I treat her. Here's something I tell our clients on that. I'm sorry, I just saw this. It got me going on it. Here's something I tell our clients with that, and I just read it in a devotional this morning. As a matter of fact, that our wives are a daughter of God. So when you have to answer to God about how you treated your wife, how are you going to be able to answer that? Because you're going to have to stand before him and answer him. That's my daughter you had down there. And what did you do to her? How did you treat her? You better have treated her like a queen. Okay. So, we work with marriage counts. We got several people we're working with right now on that. Addictions, abuse, inner healing. You can visit my website, changeyourlifestorynow.com. And if you're interested in finding out more about the life coaching, just fill out the contact form. And usually in most cases, I respond within 4 hours, if not sooner. Usually as soon as I get the message, if I can, I respond. And I got one question for you on that. What are you waiting for? Is your life not worth an hour once a week? There's no day like today to start a new day, okay? Remember my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within? It's on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and audio book. A kid that I'm working with just got my book, and he opened it up, and he can't put it down. He says, Randy, on every page, I see myself, on every single page. You get those, and we're wanting the Courageous Healers Foundation. We're wanting to go to the next level of obtaining a facility here in Coachella Valley, but we need your help. If you know someone who has a small office space available and is willing to donate that space or rent or lease it at a minimum cost, please let me know by instant message me. You can make one-time donation or be a monthly contributor. Just visit our website and click on the donate tab. Courageous Healers Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organizations. All contributions are deductible, and 100% of contributions stays in the foundation and for activities that the foundation does. Okay, so if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does, but more importantly, God does. Thanks for joining me. I love you, and I'll see you next week. I'm not sure what day next week. I'm going to be out of town through Monday, so it might be later on in the week, but I'll let you know. Okay, everybody have a fantastic day, and remember, smile. It's your choice.